Roll call for House Education, February 25th. Representative Bratton,
Here.
Representative Erickson,
Here.
Representative Guggenmoss, Representative Kelly,
Excused.
Representative Lawley,
Excused.
Representative Singh,
Here.
Representative Strzok,
Here.
Representative Williams,
Here.
Chairman Andrew.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. The first bill on the table for our consideration is Senate File 90. Senator Brennan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Evie Brennan, Senate District 31. I bring to you guys this school facilities use fees bill brought by really the community of my community and the greater state community. So what is taking place in some communities throughout the state is that we have in many communities the only place for youth clubs to be able to practice sports and do their activities is within the schools. There's not always a community center within all of our communities. But what's happening is some school districts are charging large fees that are pricing these club organizations outside of being able to use these facilities. For example, in my community, while it's a little bit on hold, there has been threats by the school board to charge upwards of $40,000 to $50,000 a year for these kids to be able to use the swim pool. And they're the only pools in the community that are the right size to be able to be used. So what we have here is just a direction that these public schools that if you go on page 2 and 3, this is really the meat of the bill, that school districts can rent out their facilities, but that any rental fees charged by the district for the use of school district property and this is just for youth clubs and activities that are not sponsored by the district, that they can't charge anything that exceeds the hourly rate of personnel, equipment, utilities, and supply costs that are actually incurred by the district for the specific use of the property during each rental period. In subsection B, we allow, and it's really important, this is upon request. So this isn't mandated by the district. This is just if the organization asks that upon request that the fees be supported by an itemized statement. And then in testimony, and we give the districts 15 days after that request is made for them to provide that receipt. So they have time. And then in our committee, it was brought to our attention that some districts are asking that these youth organizations be registered as nonprofits, which just adds like a whole nother level. So the Senate Education Committee, was brought to me by one of them, is some good language in C that says that we're not going to require a youth club or activity not sponsored by the school district to maintain formal legal status as a nonprofit organization. And that's basically what C does. And then the other important thing is that if there are any agreements in place currently, that this does nothing. This is not construed to impair any contracts or agreements entered into before July 1 of 2026. So anything that's there now stays now. And then this is effective July 1 of 2026. And I would stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator Brennan? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Would the department like to comment on this bill? Superintendent Degenfelder.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Megan Degenfelder, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, would just very briefly offer support of this bill. As you're all aware, in most of our communities, the schools are really the heart of those communities. And so I think this bill does a good job in making sure that our facilities are as free and available to our students as possible. With that, would stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank
Seeing
you.
none, thank you. We'll now open the floor to public testimony. We'll limit each speaker to 2 minutes on this bill. Please fill the chairs if you're in the room and would like to testify. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Not sure that's on. My name is Joe Melcheski. I'm a youth basketball coach here in Cheyenne. I coach a group of kids that feeds into the Cheyenne Central program. We call ourselves the Junior Tribe. I've had these kids since they were in kindergarten. They're in 8th grade now. So this is sort of my retirement tour as they go up into high school. Having coached these kids for those years, I've seen this problem up close and personal. I've heard about it from other coaches around the state. This bill fixes 3 big problems we've had over the years. The first is cost. Costs can get very high, especially if you're trying to practice 2 hours at a time, a couple times a week. It'll add up. I've paid bills or seen bills well into the 4 figures. That's difficult when you're just trying to get a group of kids together to go play a couple tournaments and you don't have facilities in town like a lot of other communities in Wyoming do. The second is administrative. The nonprofit thing is a big hangup because what you're asking parents who just really want to go coach a pick and roll to do is set up a nonprofit. So you've got to file paperwork, create a board, submit it to the IRS just to get C6 or C3 status. And that's a administrative hurdle that a lot of coaches just can't get past. It's difficult for them to do. And the third is we need a message sent from the legislature to some of the districts in the state that the legislature wants these buildings open for youth sports. And I think that's the most powerful thing this bill does. We see a lot of districts use fees as a tool to keep people out. Generally, the smaller the district, the smaller the community, the more reasonable it is. As the bureaucracy sort of grows around these things, the tougher it becomes to deal with. And so passage of this bill would give us a tool when we go talk to some of these districts, when other coaches go talk to the districts, to say, these buildings should be open to the public. They're there. We don't want to cost you extra money. If we do cost you extra money, we're happy to pay that. We get it. Nobody wants a free ride. But the buildings are built, the power is on, the basketball hoops are there. Let us use them. And so that's what we're really asking for you to do through this bill. So appreciate it. Hope you pass it.
All right, thank you. Perfect timing. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Andrew, members of the committee. Thank you for taking a look at this bill. My name is Sam Tortorich. I am the parent of 3 swimmers here in Cheyenne. I also am an attorney for a local swim club. I'm not here in the capacity as an attorney, but it gives me a unique insight into our dealings with the district here in Laramie County. I also do want to say that this is not just a Laramie County issue. We've talked to our colleagues in Laramie has faced pressures and other communities have faced pressures. Up in Casper, they're facing similar pressures. The bill that we were looking at was $55,000 per year, $55,000. That was going to destroy our club. We would keep it going for a few years. It wasn't even done incrementally where it was tied to the number of participants. That bill was going to stay the same whether we had 40 kids swimming or 10 kids swimming. They were going to destroy the swim club program. Without the swim club programs in this modern era, there are no competitive high school sports. These kids swim year round to participate even at the high school level. The East High School swimming pool cost $18.2 million. That's the facility that we built here. There are no other competition swimming pools in our county. These are the only pools that we can use that are fit for the purpose that we built them for. We were kicked out of the pool 3 years ago because we were hit with a surprise bill of $4,000 from months of use at that time. We had not paid bills for 40 years. Our policy here in Laramie County was similar to all other counties that, of course, these kids wouldn't pay any additional use fees. We built these facilities for these kids. And our policy was like that for 40 years until without notice or opportunity to be heard, we were just sent bills. They then ejected us from the pool. We ensued in 13 months of litigation. I know the time I put into it, the district will not comply with my open records request to tell me exactly how much they spent, but it's at least $50,000-$60,000 in litigation costs just to fight against. And ultimately, that fee schedule was turned down. They needed to run it through their board.
All right.
Now we face a new, so I just am in support of this board, and I thank you very much for taking a look at it. It's very needed, and I stand for any questions.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Seeing no one else in the room lining up in the chairs, we will go online. Okay, yes, please. Online next after this one.
Sorry.
That's all right, thank you.
Get in here.
That's all right.
Good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. My name is April Ojeda, and I'm a proud wrestling club parent. Asking for your favorable consideration of Senate File 90. I don't state wrestling to segregate the various sports, but rather show you the diverse group of youth club activities all fighting together for the same goal, fairness and fees. As stated already, we've been to countless school board meetings, and after feeling unheard, it was decided to try a different approach. I have researched facility use fees for every county in Wyoming that have been made public, and nothing compares to what we are being charged. I do realize the smaller the school district, the limited the resources, and many districts don't charge at all for their facility use. I've heard from various school board members in other counties as they promote the relationship building and growth of their students outside of district sports and welcome it. My main concerns with allowing the districts to select fees without the facts are safety, accessibility, and growth. For safety, wrestling requires mats to train and compete. This is not something generally found outside of school facilities. For the safety of children learning the sport, you need the proper spaces and padding. For accessibility, when charging the same rates as a gymnasium for a space less than half the size, paired with an unnecessary $45 an hour custodial fee, it doesn't keep the cost to the club low. This affects families with multiple children or those who simply do not have the financial well-being. All sports come with basic costs already. So for us, right, we need shoes, headgear, mouth guards, uniforms, tournament registration fees, travel costs, etc. Keeping fees to an actual incremental cost will help support every child wanting to learn. And for growth, wrestling is not offered anywhere at the school level before junior high. This means club sports is essential to the growth and development of the child and the sport long before its 3-month season in the school district. It reaches far beyond athletic ability and dives into mental toughness, dedication, and self-discipline, all things that help our youth grow into strong adults later in life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now move online. Looks like there's 2. Are either of them available?
I'm promoting Trin to a panelist right now. She should be ready whenever you are.
All right. Good afternoon.
Trin Warner, you should be online. If you could unmute your mic and your camera. We're ready whenever you are.
Okay, perfect. Can you guys hear me and all that? Sorry, the lighting is horrible. I'm in my dorm. Okay. Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of SF90. My name is Trinity Warner, and I'm a Laramie County native supporting this bill today. I'm calling from my dorm room at Grandview University in Des Moines, Iowa, where I received a full-ride scholarship to attend college and be a part of the women's wrestling team here. It's an opportunity I never would have been fortunate enough to have without club sports. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was given in-school suspension after getting into a fight. While I'm not proud of my actions, I'm grateful for the repercussions because my ISS teacher was also the head wrestling coach. He encouraged me to turn my emotions toward a positive outlet and recommended I try a wrestling practice or 2. And that's where my love for the sport ignited. It was a moment that changed my life forever and will always leave a mark on who I am and who I strive to be. While I'm thankful for the high school wrestling team, I really owe all of my success and even being scouted by Grandview University to the ongoing work and dedication club sports offer day in and day out. It was those off-season training, summer camps, and USA tournament opportunities that helped me get to where I am today. An increase in club sport fees to utilize school facilities like the wrestling room that would otherwise only get used 3 months out of the year is a huge detriment to the community and future athletes like me. Furthermore, my mom is a single mom of 3 kids, and I'm proud to be the first female wrestler coming from South High School to get a full ride scholarship. My parents would have never been able to afford this university for me, and certainly not for the club fees with the rising costs to use this facility. I want to ensure other kids like me also have the opportunity to learn a new sport, grow with it, and earn scholarships from their talents. Without the opportunity I was given, I wouldn't be where I am today. I come before you today to urge you to vote yes on SF90 and help keep club sports in Wyoming affordable and accessible to all youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a comment, but I just wanted to say go Bison. That's all.
Woo!
Mr.
Thank you for
Chairman,
your testimony. Oh, I'm sorry,
I-
Representative Erickson.
and this is, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a question kind of for everybody because I'm trying to decide some of the reasons as to what were the reasons that they gave each of you as to why the costs were as high, or, is there a variety of them, or was it just, we don't want you to use the facilities, or it's a cost related denial of you using them? Any of the 3 or 4 could.
The reason that I was told is the costs were for wear and tear, which they don't equate to that. And you had a second question to that.
Well,
Representative Erickson.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It was a 2-part. I apologize.
Yeah, well, I just, it's kind of just a one question. I'm just trying to compile some reasons as to what they give to you as far as the depreciation, I guess you could say
Yep.
that's what they.
So wear and tear of the facilities that are used. And then we were told that the local school board did do this research of all of the other districts across Wyoming, and this was the most comparable. But when we performed our own research, it appeared quite blatantly that they kind of picked and chose parts of those to make ours. So like this custodial fee in most of the other districts across Wyoming are for outside business hours. So the late nights or the weekends, but we're being charged every time we're utilizing the facility, whether a custodian's already on duty or not.
Gotcha.
Mr. Chairman,
Please go ahead.
briefly, so there's really 3 buckets that they use on cost. One is rent, and most of these rules that the districts do across the state have rent as a component. One is personnel, and the other is sort of a nebulous just fee. And so in some districts like Commerce County, I think it's $35 an hour to rent a gym that often gets waived, but the piece that doesn't get waived is personnel. And so then that's a separate fee of $35 an hour. So then 2-hour practice, you're paying $70 an hour for personnel. I think what this bill allows is if you're in there on a Saturday morning, something like that, that fee is certainly appropriate. If you're in there during normal business hours, when you already have custodial staff, everyone else, then we're not causing any incremental cost. And so we shouldn't be charged that.
So thank you, Representative Erickson. For the fee component, they're conflating total cost of ownership with incremental costs. And so they want to charge you for, as if you should pay for the amortization for having built the pool, in addition to the total operating costs that they would incur for the very first bather in our case for a swimming pool. And they're really just the cost of chemicals that are negligible when you add additional use. And so they're trying to ask us to pay for a total cost of ownership perspective. And then that second component is the personnel costs. And so I'm looking at a bill from September, which was 3:30 in the afternoon to 5:15 was the rental period of time. So that's a time when the custodians are in the building, and the pool technician checks the chemicals. Like every public pool, you have to check chemicals every 4 hours in a public pool. That's the job of the pool technician. They do this as part of their day. They were trying to charge us $45 for custodial services, who's already required to be there and already being paid for their services by the school district, and $53 an hour for the pool technician. So our daily cost at that point was something the order of $248. And that was just for the first of 2 practices that we do every day. They were looking at something in the order of $400 per day for us to use the facility. And we use the facility 4 to 5 days a week, almost year round. We are a very significant user of the facility. So it was conflating the total operating cost versus incremental cost, which is really germane to what this legislation does. It forces them to look at just that incremental piece. What does it really cost if you're going to use additional use, so that we're not discouraging use by trying to get these clubs to pay for an $18 million pool that we obviously couldn't afford. And then the other piece is that custodial, the custodial fees and other personnel. Are those costs already being incurred by the district? And this would be more of a but for our use. So we do use the facility on Sunday. There are no other custodians, no other users on Sunday. We would fully expect to pay for the entire custodian hours for that Sunday use. We
All
do
right,
that
thank
several
you.
times.
Thank you for your testimony. Sorry. All right. I think we've got everyone online and in the room. I'll close public testimony on this bill. Committee, what is your pleasure? Moved by Representative Singh, seconded by Representative Strock. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the bill? Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I probably my second question on that, I kind of skipped over it, but number one, I'd like to kind of discuss just exactly how widespread this is. I mean, I know that they mentioned that this is, it happens in other places besides the capital city. Because I haven't seen this kind of conflict. So kind of looking for some answers on that. And then I was kind of surprised also that the insurance didn't come up. The cost of insurance of having someone else in your building, in the building, does that fall into that? Because I know insurance can be very tough to deal with, especially when it comes to school districts. Thank you.
Senator Brennan, do you have some answers for Representative Erickson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Erickson, I do have some answers on that. So this isn't just limited to Laramie County. This has been seen. Sheridan has some issues with this. This is a growing problem over on the west side of the state in, I believe, like Rock Springs area, and moving into, I think, even closer into Evanston. I know Senator Schuler said she started seeing this as a problem in her district. So it's not limited. It is statewide. For one, the insurance piece is a great question. So there is, this is a bill that was worked a couple years ago, and we brought back and worked it, I think, even better. That time the insurance came up. For some school districts, they'll use the state insurance, and so then things fall under the Governmental Claims Act. For other districts, they have private policies, and so that becomes a different issue for them. And so a lot of times what happens is the parents or the coaches in these clubs will go out and get their own liability insurance policy. It is my thought that this would be a great interim topic for us. So, but currently we can function with the insurance as is.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Thank you. Seeing none, are there any amendments? Question having been called, we are voting on Senate File 90. Please call the roll.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 90. Representative Bratton?
Aye.
Representative Erickson?
Aye.
Representative Guggenmoss?
Aye.
Representative Kelly?
Excused.
Representative Lawley left a vote of aye. Representative Singh?
Aye.
Representative Strock?
Aye.
Representative Williams?
Aye.
Chairman Andrew?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 8 ayes, 1 excused.
Senate File 90 has passed the committee. Senate File 59 is now on the table for our consideration. And I will actually be presenting this one, so give me one moment. Senate File 59 creates a comprehensive statewide K-12 language and literacy framework grounded in the science of reading. For several years, Wyoming has passed strong literacy bills, particularly focused on K-3, but those provisions now exist in the statute as a patchwork. What this bill does is bring clarity, continuity, and alignment by organizing those efforts into a single coherent program that spans kindergarten through 12th grade. At its core, this bill establishes the Wyoming Language and Literacy Program with the goal that every student develop strong reading, writing, speaking, and comprehension skills through evidence-based instruction, assessment, and intervention, while also strengthening partnerships with families. First, the bill clearly defines terms such as dyslexia, developmental language disorder, evidence-based literacy instruction, and a multi-tiered system of support. Using nationally recognized standards, these definitions were developed with extensive stakeholder input to ensure they are precise, statute appropriate, and usable in practice. Second, every school district must adopt a district language and literacy plan. The plan requires universal and dyslexia screeners at defined intervals, diagnostic assessments when students are flagged, use of high-quality instructional materials aligned with the science of reading, and a multi-tiered system of support. Tier 1 for all students, Tier 2 for targeted intervention, and Tier 3 for intensive, individualized support. Third, students identified as having reading difficulties or at risk must receive an individualized reading plan. These plans are evidence-based, developed in collaboration with parents, and integrated into a student's educational record, and monitored with quarterly progress updates for families. If a student already has an IEP, the IEP satisfies that requirement. This bill does not duplicate the special education process. Fourth, this bill addresses instructional practice. It does not ban three cueing outright, but it prohibits it as a sole method for teaching word recognition or decoding. This was carefully drafted to ensure districts use comprehensive, evidence-based instruction rather than relying on a single incomplete approach. Fifth, the districts with persistently low reading proficiency, defined as 60% or more of students not reading at grade level, must provide additional supports, such as summer literacy camps or extended learning opportunities. Sixth, the bill strengthens teacher participation and professional development. Literacy competency will be required for teacher licensure and renewal, aligned to role and grade band. Reading specialists and endorsements are aligned with evidence-based instruction, and ongoing job-embedded professional development is required and required. Finally, the bill assigns implementation and oversight responsibilities to the Department of Education, authorizes internal reorganization to support literacy work, and requires transparent reporting so that policymakers and the public can see the outcome over time. In short, Senate File 59 does not invent a new philosophy. It organizes what works, aligns Wyoming with best practices nationwide, and ensures students are identified early, supported appropriately, and taught using methods grounded in evidence. Thank you. Are there any questions for me? Seeing none, with the Department of Education. Thank you for waiting for the Department of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Megan Degenfelder, State Superintendent of Public Instruction. With me is Claudia Ladd, who is the supervisor of our literacy and early childhood education team. This bill, I stand before you in support of and urge your passage. This effort has been 10 years in the making. I was thinking back to 2017 when I worked at the Department of Education, And we were reviewing these literacy statutes that are nothing short of a kind of Frankenstein approach, or maybe patchwork, Mr. Chairman, was a better term for it. But in serious need of a comprehensive review. And so when I took office 3 years ago, this was a top priority and became one of our 6 key initiative areas in the strategic plan. One aspect of that being to rewrite the statutes into national best practices for early literacy. And so the last 3 years, we have done great work, as was mentioned. We have updated our rules in particular. We have upped the bar when it comes to screeners, but we simply have not done enough. And the work of the last several years, that culmination results in the bill that is before you today. So 3 years ago, we began a literacy cabinet. I put together a stakeholder cabinet of experts from all around the state to begin looking at this issue of literacy. In addition, I hired a national expert with a PhD in reading and literacy. In the world of education, you know, there's a lot of letters behind people's last names, but the woman sitting next to me has a PhD in what we're talking about, not something different, but actually in reading and literacy, and has worked at the national level as well as for several states. And then in addition to that, we focused in the interim. And you'll recall that this was a significant study area for this committee in the interim. Not only did you study this throughout the interim and work the bill, but we also had the stakeholder cabinet that was running at the same time. And then in addition, there was a sub-cabinet within your committee to analyze this bill. And so during this process, many of the issues, some of which you might hear today, they were discussed and they were addressed. And that's really what's reflected in the bill that's before you today. The bill was also reviewed by national experts. Excel in Ed comes to mind, and the woman who actually led the efforts in Mississippi that's referred to as the Mississippi Miracle around literacy. This bill has been worked. It's been worked by this committee. It's been worked for years in my office. And I fear that by kicking the can down the road and not moving forward, working towards an interim, kicking the can, that's the very reason why people in our state, your constituents, my constituents, that's why they're upset with government, because we move too darn slow and it takes us years, decades to move the needle. That's why it's important that we move forward today. 40 states in the country have passed legislation that is aligned with the science of reading. I'll go through some of those states. Mississippi, they moved from 49th in the country for 4th grade reading on the NAEP to 21st. Alabama, their low-income 4th graders, from 49th to 27th. And Louisiana moved from 42nd in the country to 11th in the country. Not to mention the U.S. Department of Education, Secretary McMahon, they have specifically prioritized aligning to the science of reading. This works. And frankly, I'm tired of Wyoming being late to the party. I'm tired of Wyoming not leading in areas such as these. And Wyoming has done incredibly well. When you look at our NAEP results, we are leading in the country. We have done very well. But these states are catching up. And I will not sit back and let these states pass by Wyoming. We cannot allow that to happen. And frankly, our NAEP results have been pretty stagnant. When you're looking at a 20-year look at the NAEP 4th grade results, we have been within that 20-year time between 32 and 41% proficient. And unfortunately, our 8th grade scores actually drop. Our percentage proficient drops to 29 to 38%, and our rank does as well. And so this bill adding in or extending to K-12 is for that very reason. And until someone can explain to me why we are dropping from 4th grade to 8th grade in reading, we need to be all-encompassing when it comes to K-12 literacy. And above all of that, the other portion, we have great districts that are doing very well. We actually have a district that has 100% proficiency in 3rd grade ELA. That's great. But we also have multiple districts that are single-digit proficiency in 3rd grade ELA. That keeps me up at night. And that's why this bill is so critically important. Is the bill perfect? Probably not. There's a lot of nuances that we can work through rule and regulation. And I have openly shared with my staff that we will reconvene a group of stakeholders to ensure that we do that, to make sure that we are not arbitrarily determining what materials are or what screeners are, but that we're working with districts throughout that process. And we will work through those nuances through the rulemaking process. Now, is this going to be hard for districts? Yes. Yes, this is going to be hard work. But the WDE stands ready to support our school districts throughout the process. We have already begun to realign our state system of support so that literacy is a primary focus. We have partnered with Cox Campus and the Elbogen Foundation to ensure that we have endorsements around literacy for teachers that are free of cost. And we have recently uploaded coaching modules on our website. So this is hard. We are raising the bar. But again, I think we need to question when resistance to change supersedes what's best for students. This bill, ensuring that our kids can read, because frankly, nothing else matters if a child cannot read. That's our focus. That's why we're doing this. And so I encourage this committee to pass this bill. I look forward to working with districts throughout the process, through the rulemaking process, and would stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Superintendent Degenfelder. Please elaborate on what you just referenced that will help districts with the cost.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Representative Williams. So several months ago, we launched a language and literacy initiative, and we brought together several partners in that initiative. A couple of them include Cox Campus, which provides a comprehensive training platform for teachers around literacy, and they have agreed to do that free of cost. And we also partnered with the Elbogen Foundation, who is willing to provide the cost to take the K-Perry exam, which is a very sophisticated course around literacy. And so we have exciting partners there. We also have the University of Wyoming, who has partnered in this effort, as well as the Professional Teaching Standards Board to ensure that along this continuum, we are all aligned. So we'll continue to look at resources to provide to districts. The state system of support is also funded within the district to go out to schools and provide supports there. And so that's another piece that we'll be able to aid. And I would turn to Ms. Ladd if I'm missing anything.
Further questions? Representative Strong.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm trying to get this worded just right, but there is a lot of pushback from teachers and they feel that maybe they'll lose their jobs or positions, or they feel they're very adequate in what they're doing. And that there just seems to be this fear in some of the districts. How could we help them with this or answer that? What has been some of the things that you've heard? And is there a way we could maybe make them feel like this isn't something that we're pushing on them, that they won't be able to handle? So.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, Representative, change is hard. It's always going to be hard. You change your methods. If you've been doing something the same way for many, many years, that's difficult. And this is not meant to be a witch hunt in that way and to really force something from the state down, but it's to empower districts in what we know has been the changing evidence and research around reading and learning how to read. And so we've spent many hours talking about how do we support teachers to get there? And we recognize this doesn't happen overnight. And so it's ensuring that professional development piece is there, but also training our new teachers as well. And so we're all in this effort together. This is our intent. And that's why as we approach things like rule promulgation around this statute, that's going to continue to be incredibly important. And our literacy stakeholder cabinet has included folks from all across the state because we want to hear from them. We want them to be a part of this. And so that really, I hope, is reassuring for our teachers. We also have a lot of teachers that are in support of this. They're excited to raise the bar when it comes to literacy because there's no teacher out there that doesn't want a child to learn how to read, but some of them might not be equipped with the latest research and evidence-based instruction that it takes to get there. Ms. Ladd, would you comment any further?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Andrew and Representative Struck. We are definitely looking to partner with our educators. We are a team in this, and we're looking forward to the rule promulgation process. We are looking for those free resources that are of the highest quality for our educators. There is no intent for loss of job. That is not part of this at all. There is no requirement for teachers to follow through. And if they would like to continue it and work towards a reading specialist endorsement, that we would like to facilitate and pay for through the Elbogen Foundation for anybody who desires that, but that is not mandatory.
Thank you. Is there any further questions? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and a question for Mrs. Ladd. Did I say that right, Ladd?
Yes.
Secretary mentioned your credentials and your certifications, and I was just wondering if you could repeat those for me, please.
Absolutely. I have my doctorate in reading and literacy from Capella University. I have served on the Colorado Department of Education team in the literacy role, as well as Wyoming, and I've worked at the national level, reviewing curriculum and instruction and teacher preparation programs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions? Representative Erickson.
Thank you. And Superintendent Degenfelder, thank you for the information on this. I just had a couple of questions, and they kind of all focus around kind of a little bit of a theme. Is sometimes I hear that we kind of lump all districts together in how they're doing and how they're not. Could you differentiate and what is that range of districts and how they're doing with reading? Because it's certainly not getting a lot of feedback that say everyone's lumped into one kind of a center category of not doing very well.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Erickson, that's absolutely correct. I believe we actually range third grade ELA on the YTOP from 100% proficiency to somewhere around 5 or 7% proficient. And so it's a large range. Our state average is right around 51% proficient on the YTOP. We'd be happy to get you that information district by district if you'd like it.
Thank you. Further questions? Representative Erickson.
One more again, just on some comments, Superintendent Degenfelder. The resistance to change, do you see that as far as the pushback that you've received? Is that your perception of why they don't like it? You know, I'm hearing so many different things as to what I see as resistant to it. And it's not just resistance to change, but
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I think that's a large piece of it. Of course, you know, there are folks that could poke holes in a lot of aspects of this. A lot has not been determined and will be by rule promulgation. For example, what screeners will take place at the high school level, what that will look like. The department stands ready to work with our districts of what that menu of options are. The same goes for evidence-based materials that will be determined. We have within the bill that districts can apply within the department of what their individual materials are. We want to allow for local control, local autonomy here, while still making sure that we're raising the bar when it comes to what is classified as evidence-based and aligned to the science of reading. So there's a couple of things in there, but resistance change I think is one of them. But there's a lot of different, and I'd be happy to go into a lot of the details there of concerns that we've heard. But largely, I hope that you'll hear from folks today that are supportive of this and have been involved in the literacy cabinet work.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Is there any other state departments that would like to comment on this? If not, we will open the floor to public testimony. We will start with those in opposition to the bill. How many people here to speak in opposition to the bill? Would you mind raising your hand? 2 more besides you 2 are in opposition to the bill. You're not in opposition? Okay, we're gonna do opposition first.
I'm the state agency.
I am so sorry. That's embarrassing. I'm sorry. All right. So there's just to organize this. Who is here to speak in favor of the bill? All right. All right. Thank you. That helps me for later. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Andrew, members of the committee. My name is Brendan O'Connor, the Executive Director of the Wyoming Professional Teaching Standards Board, and my new Assistant Director, Stephanie Benbow, joins me in our presentation. We appreciate the opportunity to speak on this matter. I did participate in the subcommittee that the Joint Education Interim Committee formed with Senator Rothfuss as the chair in drafting this bill, and have testified to the Senate committee just recently as well. Just wanted to put out for the public record, having initial license requirements for testing to earn an initial license sometimes can produce a barrier for some candidates. This committee, many of you may recall in past interim meetings, seeing some pass rates and those levels of success for that. So while we can do that, we already do that right now. Just wanted to put that out there that can create a barrier for some candidates, allowing us to have provisional licenses for those candidates to get employed, get a little more time to pass those tests is appreciated. So I like that is in the bill. The same would be true for those who are already licensed and would need to meet literacy competency upon renewal of their license. I appreciate that the Professional Teaching Standards Board will have the opportunity to define what literacy competency is. We'll certainly be working with our partners that have been mentioned already, plus through rules promulgation, we get plenty of public comment as well, and we'll be considering that. We already have a reading endorsement in place and have for a number of years. The board has recently created 2 new additional reading endorsement related endorsements, structured literacy endorsement and a dyslexia specialist endorsement. The dyslexia specialist endorsement is probably the higher level of that, really more diagnostic training and intensive remediation for those struggling readers. The structured literacy endorsement is a little more mid-tier, providing certainly more support, more generalized support for other struggling readers, not just dyslexia. Again, the dyslexia specialist is really focusing on that particular issue, where the structured literacy endorsement would be addressing a variety of struggling or reading and literacy difficulty materials. We are working currently, a subcommittee of our board is working on what those requirements are going to be to earn those endorsements. They kind of created the endorsement. We have worked with and have approved the Cox campus for professional development for renewal credits. And that's a good first step into earning these endorsements. But as we're looking into it, there may be some additional training needed to actually earn the endorsement. It might qualify for being considered literacy competent, might not necessarily equate to an endorsement where you're being deemed ready and proficient enough to provide training or teaching in any particular content. And so happy to stand for any questions on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that. And I don't know if I was following you perfectly, but on the last, next to the last page of this bill, it's page 17, and if this wasn't what you were referring to, I'll save my question for someone else, but line 5 and 6 on page 17 says literacy competency shall be defined by rule of the board. But in the first part of that paragraph on the page before, at the bottom of that page, page 16, and in lines 22 and 23, it says teachers licensed after July 1st, 27 shall demonstrate literacy competency. And it just seems like that might be some of the unease that we're hearing, that teachers shall demonstrate literacy competency that really hasn't been defined yet. Is that a question? Is that a question for you, or is that a question for somebody else?
Chairman, Representative Williams, I believe that is a question for us to determine what, as the language states, that the Professional Teaching Standards Board gets to define what literacy competency is. And so that's where we will, through our rule promulgation process, we'll get the public feedback as well. Our board would put forward what they think this is what would be deemed literacy competent. And so educators would have to meet that. One avenue, just for an example, which might help frame that, may be passing that K-PERI test that was mentioned earlier. And so with the Cox campus training, Those educators could get that training to brush up on some skills, maybe learn some new skills, be ready to take that test and would be deemed literacy competent. There may be other avenues that the Department of Education has provided a program called LETTERS training for a number of years. Potentially that could be, the board could say, yes, that would be an equivalent enough training to say you're literacy competent. You might not have the additional skills for the endorsements that are listed in the bill, but at least as a baseline, all educators would be literacy competent and on the same material that's defined earlier in this bill.
Thank you.
Did that help?
Follow up. I'm going to Representative Bratton next.
Go ahead.
Unless he has a follow-up. All right, Representative Bratton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to follow up on that question and ask, so is this the same, will this definition apply to all teachers K through 12? Is there any differentiation amongst K3, K5, your high school teachers for that definition of literacy competency?
Chairman Andrew, Representative Bratton. In rule, I believe we get the opportunity, the board would have to help narrow or define who it would more apply to. So at just a ballpark right now, all elementary teachers would likely be required to meet this. The secondary math teacher, maybe not, I don't know, but the secondary English teacher, that's where the board has to make that decision and see who does this apply to. Is it broad brush, everyone? The shop teacher, the home ec or family and consumer sciences is the current term. That it has to be determined, yes. And the board and the bill allows the PTSB to determine who applies according to instructional role and grade band.
Representative Bratton.
Thank you, and thank you, Chairman, Mr. Chairman. So will there be public comment? What's the process for promulgating those rules? Because certainly those are some of the concerns that I've heard from my district and with the secondary teachers and what will be required of them, as well as CTE teachers and, what is that all going to look like? So could you expand a little bit on the process of that rule promulgation?
Mr. O'Connor.
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman Andrew. So, Representative Bratton. So in a quick nutshell, rules promulgation, the board produces a set of rules, kind of a draft version, so to speak. They take action on it. It goes out for public comment for a minimum of 55 days, I believe it is. Comes back later, the board receives all of those public comments, if any. At a future meeting, they review those and determine if revisions need to be made to those rules. We kind of start again, or if the rules aren't too major, they can kind of modify within their meeting, tweak the things, get it set, and then move it forward. But it can take a while, so that's what I appreciate, that we have over a year to get that ball rolling and get those conversations going, so that this doesn't take effect this July, where we really wouldn't have that opportunity. Because rules promulgation, the full set between the board's initial saying we're putting these forward until the governor signs them into effect can take upwards to 6 months.
Thank you. Are there any? Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director O'Connor, can you tell me, it's pretty simple, I guess, but hung up a little bit with me. Can a teacher still be a teacher if they don't maintain their license?
Chairman Andrew, Representative Erickson, if they lose their license, then no, because there's other state statutes that say if you are not certified, you can't be paid with public funds for that. And I don't want to read any more into your question than that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Follow up? No. All right. Representative Williams.
On that same line of thinking, Mr. Chairman, Director, I had a similar question. Can a teacher retain their job if they're not able to, for one reason or another, acquire or retain this literacy competency endorsement that we're speaking of?
Okay, Chairman Andrew, Representative Williams. So as I read the bill, and so it's open to my interpretation right now, literacy competency is kind of a baseline for all of the identified educators. An endorsement would require additional. So you can show that you're literacy competent at one level, passing a test, for example, completing the letters training or some other identified training may meet that bar. If you want to provide additional services specifically for struggling readers, then the extra endorsements, like the reading endorsement that currently exists, the new structured literacy one or the dyslexia one, that will require additional training that not all teachers would be required to meet. All identified teachers would have to show that they're literacy competent. That's kind of the baseline. And then anything up and above that would earn an endorsement. Coming back to, can they keep their job? Yes, because you've allowed us to also issue provisional licenses to allow them time to meet that requirement.
Follow up, Representative Strzok.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess you could see that my question forming here. Thank you. I think that is probably some of the fear that we've had. This misinterpretation here. The teachers feel like they may not have their license or won't be able to teach because of pushing this extra thing on them. So if I'm hearing right, that is not going to happen. They're not going to lose their teaching job if they don't receive this license. I guess I'm not understanding this whole thing. Is there a license they have to go get? This is a whole new, let's see, how would you put that? I don't know. Is it a whole new thing they're going to have to do? Be able to still keep their teaching degree?
Chairman Andrew, Representative Strzok. Okay, so trying to, and I don't want to be mansplaining or anything like that, but so everyone has a license that allows you to teach. Upon that are endorsements, which are the areas in which you're trained to teach and provide those specific services. As I read this bill, and again, this is my interpretation, which I'm not a lawyer, literacy competency demonstrating that is a lower bar that we can say you have been trained to this level, you know the science of reading, you've been trained in that, you can provide some general, I believe it would be considered tier 1 instruction to all students for that. If they can pass that, it's no barrier on their license at all. And so that's what I think the board will be wrestling with, is where's a good line for that baseline for everybody. And they would have multiple opportunities to meet that requirement. If as written, someone who's licensed right now would have until their next renewal. So they may have up to 5 years to pass that. And so they could, or, to meet that requirement. So they could have many opportunities to take that training, complete whatever requirements for that, be working that whole time and not, my goal would be that no one would lose their license and lose their employment from this. But also realizing we need to kind of raise the bar on the training so that all students get better training and better instruction on how to be more proficient readers.
Thank you. Are there further questions? All right, thank you
Okay,
for your
thank you.
testimony, and I apologize for moving too quickly earlier.
Not at all. Thank you.
All right, let's see. We have, I'll open it up to public testimony, those in opposition. First, we will probably need to use the rest of this meeting on this bill. I think because it's a big topic, I think we'll limit each side opposed and in support to 15 minutes with a 5-minute limit on each speaker. But please just be aware of the number of people wishing to speak on this bill. There's one teacher online too when we go and support that I do want to get to because she is on her lunch break. So all those opposed, please come forward and fill the chairs. Representative Jarvis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not necessarily completely 100% opposed, but I do want to bring some things to highlight. Just, I did start out in this committee, but I did stop working with this committee after we hit a couple key points that I want to just highlight my concerns. I want to also just build a little bit on what the agency spoke about for provisionary licenses. When you get a provisionary license, they only last 2 years. You got 2 years to get it done. What this bill says is, if you notice on page 16, it says the board shall, and that this section shall be by rules. But it clearly does state that a teacher in Wyoming is going to have to demonstrate literacy competency. And so in order to be able to do that, that would affect their and impact their licenses. Because if you cannot, there is the leeway of having to do this additional work, because nobody has this, because as you heard already, it's being created right now. So nobody has these certifications. They will have to do this literacy competency or an endorsement in addition to what they currently have in their licensure. And then they will be given, if they don't get this done in the time frame specified in here, they will be given the option for a provisionary license, and that's an additional 2 years. If it doesn't happen after that, you heard very clearly, you have to hold a teaching license in order to be able to be a teacher in the state of Wyoming. It will impact their job. So I would like to really request that if we're moving forward with this, that there be some leeway, like the agency talked about, for teachers to choose to do this if they want to, but this not be a have to, where we have teacher shortage for our already existing teachers. Additional work, and then them not be able to continue teaching. I can think of a variety of reasons, like medical, babies, all kinds of reasons that come up in life that would potentially prevent someone from continuing to be a teacher in the state of Wyoming. The other concern that I have is that you notice in the certification that starting at a certain date, and I said, I think it's teachers that are licensed before July 1st in 2027, or after that, our new teachers are going to have to come in and they're going to have to be able to pass this competency before they can even get the licensure. So I just want to be clear that although our university, the University of Wyoming, is working on creating some great pathways to make this happen, we don't control the rest of the universities all over the entire United States. So, and I believe there's only about 25 universities in the United States that will give teachers this type of learning before, in their undergraduate, before they come in. So I would like to strongly encourage this group to look really, really close at this section on the have-tos, because this will cause a teacher shortage if it stands like it is. The other big concern that I have on the, as a person who enacts this work, yes, the Cox Academy is free, but here's the thing, it takes 70 hours to complete the Cox Academy, and we don't have 70 hours of PD inside our districts, so we will be paying teachers for their time. We may not be paying for them to take this course, but we will be paying for their time. And the average district pays $30 an hour per teacher, and it would be approximately about $2,500 per teacher. And when we're talking teachers, we're talking all K-12 classroom teachers. We're talking, because as they described back there, this is the structured literacy endorsement competency. All special ed teachers, all literacy intervention teachers. So that is everybody.
And that's a $2,500 additional cost. So I would ask this body that if we're going to go down this road, please provide the funding for these school districts to do it. This bill also takes and says that school districts now have to use the curriculum for which is outlined by WDE without, I can tell you 9 years ago when Douglas purchased literacy curriculum, it was $1 million. So if we're going to all have to buy new curriculum, please take into account those costs as well, because these aren't mays or possiblies, these are shalls that are written in here. So the cost to be able to enact this for the districts is going to be pretty significant. Yes, there are things in this bill where it allows for the district to apply to WDE and ask a request for an alternative assessment or an alternative curriculum. But if denied, we have to come up with the funding for that. So I'm just asking you to like holistically look what this bill does, because I think there's a lot of concerns that could have been worked out had we had the time to be able to do that. But we just haven't had that time. And yes, do I question should we have quality curriculum and quality assessments and do these things? The literacy piece of this, I don't question. I think it's fantastic. I really question the enactment because I don't think there were people at the district level that were present with these conversations to be had on how it would actually impact our districts in the enactment of this. And my final concern is there is nowhere in this bill that allows for when a district hits a certain percentage or 100% of the kids are proficient, they still have to do this. So this is corrective action from our state government on controlling curriculum, controlling local level stuff.
Thank you, Representative Jarvis. We've hit the time, sorry.
Is it 5 minutes? Okay.
Yes, I actually let you go a little bit over, but thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian Farmer, Wyoming School Boards Association. I really, Mr. Chairman, hesitate to say that I'm against the bill because I'm only against one piece of it. I believe that as a K-6 literacy bill, this is a good approach. I think this is a good path forward. This takes us one step further than we are. But Mr. Chairman, please do not think that that means we're not interested or committed to secondary literacy. As a matter of fact, I believe that should be the primary topic of this committee going into the interim. The reasons I have concerns about this at the secondary level is that I do not believe that the research supports that this is the appropriate approach for secondary students. Some of the definitions that you'll see within the bill, some of the practices that you see within the bill are very accurate and very correct for K-6 literacy. When you move to secondary literacy, sometimes different strategies and different interventions are warranted. So this bill requires assessment and screening, and that's good. And I think we can continue even doing that at the secondary level. And then it requires intervention. And that's where we start to have differences of approach, the intervention sort of approach. But the biggest piece that this bill does is it addresses professional development and credentialing of teachers at a minimum. And so what does that look like at the secondary level versus the primary level? And as so many school boards have done in the past, we look at literacy programs of how can we address this? And the last thing we want to do is to buy one set of things because we think it's the hot new thing now, only to find out in a year or two that there's a better approach for a different group of our staff. So really, I'm asking this committee, pass this as a K-6 bill and commit with us to study this in the interim to make sure that we're doing the right thing for kids at the secondary level, that the interventions are correct for them, that the strategies are correct, and most importantly, that the intervention or that the professional development for teachers at the secondary level is appropriate. The kindergarten teacher, the 6th grade teacher in their language instruction, this professional development works. The math teacher, the science teacher, the shop teacher,
paraprofessionals, the special ed teachers. Let's make sure that we're giving them the right professional development to help them in their role. Mr. Chairman, if you do move forward with the bill as it is, I do have two suggestions for you. The first comes at page 12, line 7. Page 12, line 7. So here we're talking about what do you do with these individualized reading plans? And line 7, we just finished up everything that should be in there. I'm suggesting adding a subparagraph E that says include specific measurable criteria and a projected timeline for determining when the student has achieved grade level reading proficiency and the individualized reading plan is no longer required.
Mr. Chairman, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Real quick, Brian, could you give us that, that reference again?
Yeah, so
I have the engrossed copy. Would that be the same?
yeah, page 12, line 7, it's an empty line.
Okay,
So I'm saying add something that's not there.
thank you for that clarification.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I should
No,
address
it's
that
okay.
through
Please
you.
go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'm suggesting that when you're talking about the individualized reading plan, it's got these 4 good pieces that are already there, A, B, C, and D. I'm saying let's add an E that talks about having an identification of how we determine the kid has met the objectives of the reading plan. I'd be happy to provide you that language, hand you my paper, but in the interest of time, I won't necessarily repeat the words because they're fairly 3 lines of text. But include specific measurable criteria and a projected timeline for determining when the student has achieved grade level reading proficiency and the individualized reading plan is no longer required. So in other words, how do we know when they're done, that they've met the goals? Just add that to the list of things that should be in the reading plan. The second suggestion I have for you, now you can see where it is because it is there. Page 13, line number 2, it says each school district shall ensure any person employed by the school district receives job embedded practice-based and ongoing literacy-related professional development appropriate to their role and level of responsibility. My concern is with the term any person employed by the school district. On the Senate side, they made a good catch on page 15, and they changed some similar language to teachers and instructional staff. I think language similar to that, striking any person employed by the school district and say, shall ensure teachers and instructional staff receive job embedded practice-based ongoing literacy-related professional development, just being clear as to who we're talking about. So again, some of the clarity of who has that kind of training. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Strzok.
Thank you, Chairman. Back to thinking we just do K through 6 right now. How do you fix the problem that we have that in middle school, 8th graders, these kids can't even take the shop test that they've been given because of the reading? So what are we going to do for those kids now if we can't start implementing this and get the teachers on board to teach some of this reading?
Mr. Chairman, I think that districts do seek to identify needs and address those through interventions now. So they would use reading specialists to have individualized specific intervention for those students. It would just not be using sort of the broad same, this is the one size that we're going to use for all kids. It would be the case-by-case analysis in this coming year while we determine the appropriate strategy and implement a 712 bill next year.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, we have about a minute left. I'll give you 3 if that's all right. Sorry, I sound horrible, but this is a job to control how long this meeting goes, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be very, very brief. agree with both of the two previous speakers. Again, not on and against this bill at all. We know how important reading is. We know that it is a function of being successful later on in life. So not against that, but really concerned a little bit about how the secondary is going to work out and how we make sure we get the appropriate training for the appropriate people at the secondary level. And with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Lawley.
Thank you. Oops, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I'm late, had to build another committee. So I'm a little behind in the discussion, but my greatest concern is these kids are suffering. I mean, at that high school level, it's significant. And that we kind of keep saying, we'll do that later, we'll do that later. And, you know, I really am concerned about what these kids are getting out of the system and they can't read. So, I mean, is there another alternative you could offer of keeping something that's included in this bill going while we work on more? But for me, it's a hard thing to swallow that we just keep waiting and pushing it to another interim, pushing it to another interim, pushing it to another interim. So again, that's for me, a big frustration because honestly, that's the part of the bill I think is most important and needed because of what I see in school districts and what's, you know, the inability to read. Classes are being kind of conducted in ways where people don't have to read anymore. We watch movies, we don't read books. There's just a lot of signs of the stress of this idea that there are a good number of students who are definitely not reading at age level, but well below age level. So any thoughts about, again, I feel like we'll get here about a year from now and be told, let's wait another year. And that's kind of been a pattern. So I'm concerned about it.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lawley, again, I would say that we wanted to deal with those students on an individual basis. We do have some schools that are doing a great job, even at the secondary level already. And I think having the opportunity to see what they're doing or use what they're doing moving forward would be more beneficial than trying to just throw something in and say, well, everybody, we're going to do this K through 12 and everybody has to have the same training and the same things. And it's going to look a lot different in a social studies class than it will in a science class and so forth for training for teachers. So I think just to relax, we throw a lot on our teachers and this is going to throw one more thing on them. So I think having them be able to relax and feel like we're going to bring them to the table and see what they have to say and see what the research has to say for secondaries out there. And I don't think that we did a very good job of that at this one. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to testimony in support of the bill. Please fill all the chairs, and we do have one teacher online who is running out of lunch break, so I'd like to get to her first if we can.
Chairman Andrew, Faith Howard should be a panelist, and she should be good to go whenever she is ready. Faith Howard, you're good to go.
Okay. Hello.
You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Faith Howard, and I'm a secondary literacy specialist in Pinedale, Wyoming. I work with 6th through 12th graders in a specialized intervention class called Literacy Lab that I created. If you are near a laptop and want to Google this article that was published about my work, it's called "This Pinedale Teacher's Approach is Helping High School Students Fill Reading Gaps." I have been a teacher for 17 years. I have my master's degree from the University of Wyoming. I have been an English teacher for middle and high school and worked in 3 states, as well as been a director of curriculum and instruction for a high-performing charter school in Denver. I've received national and statewide recognition for my work in adolescent literacy and intervening with students in innovative ways. I'm here today to testify in support of this bill and not postponing this for secondary because I am excited to share that this works, okay? And that there is research. We don't need to research anymore. There is clear evidence through the science of reading of what works for students. In my 4 years working as a literacy specialist for Pinedale High School in Sublette County School District 1, we've been able to reduce the number of below basic students from 29% to 6% year over year. It is possible through interventions, but unfortunately, most schools are not able to provide that. In our state right now, I've had over 11 districts reach out to me personally, and I offer like insights and support and help to them, as well as another 11 who are currently working through and using some form of secondary literacy interventions, but they all are looking for answers. In my district, we also have run professional development over the course of the last 4 years for all staff, middle and high school, even the shop teacher, even the math teacher, on literacy best practices and evidence-based approaches. So I just want to speak to that it is possible, and that teachers, from the teacher perspective, are clamoring for this. They need and want that. They are frustrated. The thing that's going to burn out teachers is not educating them more about how to teach students how to read or how to support their struggling readers. It's actually the other way around. More teachers will leave because they are feeling the burden of inheriting students who cannot read, and they don't have the tools to be able to help them or support them. And so I just really want to bring this point home, that this is not about convenience. This is about leaving a generation behind. And right now we are running out of time with these students. And if we put this off, we will not be able to help them. But if we do something about this, and I'm talking simple, I have some solutions and ideas for what this professional development can look like, for what the staffing can look like to avoid some of those pitfalls in this bill. And we can do it. But if we keep putting it off, just like it was mentioned, it's not going to happen. This bill doesn't need copious amendments, right? It just needs a renewed commitment to reading as being the thing, not another thing. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I hit all of my notes. All teachers, even secondary teachers, need to be literacy competent. We're not talking about some additional, all of these hoops they have to jump through and requirements. For me, it's really like building more knowledge base for teachers, which they want. And like I said, I've been recognized nationally and at the state level, and I am helping other districts kind of during my own spare time right now, and I would love to be able to help more with that through some actual accountability that's being provided from the state to our districts, not to control what they're doing, but to better help them to do what they're doing to support kids. So I'm sure I've missed something, and I would really love to stand for questions, as I have several ideas I could pitch.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mrs. Howard. I applaud you on your accomplishments and your credentials. So I'm clear, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you feel like this bill is necessary for other districts to accomplish what you have already accomplished in your district? Do I understand that right?
Chairman Andrew, Representative Williams, yes. Right now, there is a huge need for more teacher education in secondary. In undergrad and graduate programs, unless you specialize in literacy, you don't learn. I didn't even learn as a middle and high school English teacher how to help students who were struggling with reading. They're already expected to know how to read. So we're looking for more accountability. And through that accountability, then it allows for more support from the state and more teacher education. This problem's not going away. We continue to inherit more and more struggling readers. But right now, it's incredibly dependent in our state on your zip code, or if your superintendent in your school district happens to prioritize literacy and then offers professional development for teachers within your school district, or creates a literacy specialist position. And there are not many secondary literacy specialists out there.
Further questions?
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you. I'll go back to the room. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Andrew and members of the committee. My name is Chandel Pine. I'm a director with Wyo Right to Read and the founder and president of Paul's Mountain Advocacy for Literacy. I am here for the other 42% of students in Converse County or the other 51% of students in other counties. I am sitting at the table with families. They are coming to me and Paul's Mountain for resources because their children are being left behind. And I'm going to be very brief. I know we're limited on time. Since I have started Paul's Mountain, I have done library events where I invite the community to come learn about dyslexia and what I'm trying to do. And during those events, 2 of Paul's previous teachers have shown up. And one of them was the reading specialist when he was in 1st grade. And she came to me and she said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. And I'm so sorry." She now tutors students for Paul's Mountain at a discounted rate because trying to raise money to teach kids how to read, people think you're crazy because they think they're getting it in school, which I'll be crazy, but I'm gonna save some children's lives. Additionally, his kindergarten teacher, because if you recall from my story, he did kindergarten twice. The kindergarten teacher from the 1st year recently came to my last event and she's tutoring for me for free to help families. And all she has said is, "Thank you. I wish I would have had this help when my son was in school and when I was in school." What is the cost of a child's life? We hear that Douglas County's purchased $1 million thing 10 years ago. And what are their rates? What have other districts spent? Oh, we're gonna have to pay teachers to do the professional development. Okay, what is the cost of a child's life? What is the cost of my child's life? Because other children are going to die and other children are going to wind up in federal prison and then they will be taught how to read and screened for dyslexia. There isn't some quick program that the districts are all going to purchase and this is going to be wonderful. We have 50 years of evidence here on how the brain learns reading. What happens to the brain when it doesn't learn reading? We know how the brain learns reading. You create neural pathways from the frontal to the temporal to the occipital lobe. So I stand for questions, but if you do not pass this bill, you are failing Wyoming's children. Like, you are failing them. You can go dig their grave or just send them to federal prison now because you are setting them up for a life of failure. Thank you. I stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Megan Hesser. Spoken to you guys many times before, and I know I'm not on PTSB or the WDE, but I think I can speak a little bit to kind of some of your guys' questions with how this licensure thing is going to work. I mean, we're talking literacy competency is going to be that base test that you have to pass to get your license. Like, we're not talking anything crazy here. Like, this is a minimal amount. The K-Peri is actually something that a lot of programs that are steeped in the science of reading, you have to pass at the end of your master's degree. And I can tell you, I have probably the most useless bachelor's degree that you're ever going to get. I was a fine art major. I have no education background, but I have a master's in education now, and I passed the K-Peri the first time without any issue. It can be done. And we're not even talking K-Peri. K-Peri is probably going to be more your endorsement level than it is your teacher license level. I mean, this is doable. And I don't have the numbers. The WDE may have the numbers. There's lots of teachers in this state that have already taken letters training. Letters training would be sufficient to show literacy competency. And there has been a huge push in a lot of districts with the WDE's federal grant. This is being done. Like, there are teachers that can already pass it. There's teachers that have already passed the K-Peri in the state. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world for everyone. In Laramie 1, if you're talking curriculum, they're already using curriculum that would probably be on the approved list. There are districts that are using it. They're just not using it well because their teachers don't have the training to back it up, and their admins don't have the training to support their teachers. So we need to be really careful when we scale back that language on who's getting professional development, because if we leave off your curriculum directors and your SPED directors, there's going to be no support for the teachers because they don't know either. And again, if you want to get out of this bill because you're 100% proficient, why? If it has worked and it has gotten you to 100% proficiency, why would you change? It makes no sense. If it's working, why would you what do you need to fix? And as far as secondary intervention goes, I know in Laramie 1, probably a lot of other districts, their form of intervention at secondary is to stick them in front of a computer program. And that is not going to cut it, especially by secondary, because you've got some mental health issues that you're going to have to overcome there, some resistance to learning. My son is a 7th grader and the resistance is very strong. I can tell you that. And as far as, your other teachers in secondary getting this professional development, I mean, we just heard that other teachers are getting it, science, math, and are okay with it. They like it, that give me more. Because there's actually a lot that your science and your math teachers can do at the secondary level to help your struggling readers. I know they were talking about the research for what works for secondary readers. Morphology is a huge piece that can help jump older students much faster than just straight phonics. And your math and science teachers have a fantastic opportunity to break down the words that are used in their classes into word parts that will help those students understand words that they see elsewhere.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions? Representative Huguenot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment on your testimony, because I've seen firsthand in a school district where they were doing something that was working, and then halfway through K through 12, they changed and it derailed the child's education and their scores plummeted. So I just want to agree with that because I've seen it firsthand. You're doing something that works and then you change it, you're setting the child up for failure. So yes.
Thank you. Further questions? Who would like to go next?
Thank you, Chairman and representatives of the committee. Carrie Roden, dyslexia specialist, former teacher, and parent of a dyslexic. First, of course, I do this all the time. I prepare something really nice and neat, and then it all turns into notes. So I just want to go over a few things that were spoken about and questions that were asked. The first one, the gentleman that was sitting here and asked about putting in, I think, an amendment about when are students going to get out of IRPs. Teachers are not going to keep their students in intervention if they don't need to be in intervention. Teachers are trained, teachers will hopefully now be trained and they will know when a student will be able to exit an IRP. And the secondary piece is obviously the biggest one and the biggest issue that we're facing. I appreciate Representative Strzok and Lawley for talking about that and the importance of kids being able to be successful in those secondary schools. Again, change is hard. We have 50,000 7th through 12th graders in our state right now that could be left behind if we do not pass this. Again, a lot of the training will go through the rules process. And it is the district and the state's job to train the teachers, not the individual teacher's job. So when we're talking about, well, how are they going to get this training? Well, the districts are going to have to decide that. We have PD days built into the school year. Out of my almost 20 years of teaching for a district, I had 2 trainings that were worthwhile. And so if we have our districts put their money, which they will have to now with this bill, towards actually training all teachers how reading happens in the brain and what to do if they're struggling, then they don't have to look outside for extra PD money. They don't have to look outside for extra time to pay their teachers. I want to kind of equate this and do an analogy of surgeons. A surgeon has to start out with learning about the entire human body before they specialize. It's the same thing with education. Reading is the most fundamental skill that our kids have. If we have secondary teachers that have no idea how reading works, what's going on with this kid that keeps failing this test and can't do the project in tech ed because they can't pass the test, likely they can't read. We need teachers secondary teachers that recognize that and acknowledge that. There is training out there that is not just the Cox campus, which that is something that a reading interventionist would take. That is not something that we're asking our 7th through 12th grade teachers or even our K through 6th grade teachers to take. They would take, there's trainings that are asynchronous. You can do in your own time. You can do it in a group during that PD time during the school year. So there are so many options that were not addressed earlier about how this will work in secondary. Faith Howard showed you that it can be done. She has done it. And we, as a former teacher and a parent, their timing, there's not a lot of time that teachers have outside of teaching because they devote everything to their kids. That's why we have to build it into the school year with the funding that the districts already get. Let me make sure I have. Also, with the PTSB questions to Mr. O'Connor, that is basically what I said. That is why it is so important for these secondary teachers to understand and be able to pass that literacy competency assessment. Again, it's the district's job to make sure that they have that. It's not the teacher's job. And if they can't pass it, then if their teachers aren't passing that assessment, then the districts need to be looked at on why that is. Let me make sure. I think that's it.
Pretty soon.
Yes, I'm good.
Like,
Thank you.
we have time to work
Stand
the
for
bill, but
questions.
thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, would you be willing to wrap up in maybe a minute or so? Sorry, if we go too much further, we won't have time.
That's fine. And Chairman Andrew and members of the committee, the packet that I gave you, and I can just let you look at that when you have time. But what it's mainly doing, and I wrote you a little letter of what, kind of what I was going to say anyway. So you have that. I like to do data-based decision-making. And so this gives you the data through it. And I apologize that some of the pages didn't copy off correctly. And I forgot to number the pages on this one, but if you look at the NAEP reports, 4th grade in 2024, we had 36% of our students proficient or above, only 36%. And in 8th grade, we only had 29% that were proficient or above. So if you have 8th graders and we only have 29% proficient and above, I don't see how you can say, not go ahead and pursue the K-12. There's no reason that we cannot do this. Faith told you how she does it. It is possible to do. And the one thing I heard throughout the testimony that was for people who are in opposition to this, I didn't hear children at the front of those comments. Is this going to be a little inconvenient for the first year or two till you get used to doing this in intermediate? Yeah, because we're all learning, right? But where are the children? I didn't hear a lot of, this is about the kids. These are about the children who are not reading in high school. And we continue to graduate them. And I worked with a student last year that was an 11th grader. He was reading at an upper 2nd grade level. And he's going to graduate this year, probably reading at a 3rd grade level. And I can tell you he is not alone. And also, administrators, one thing I would like to suggest is to go back into the amendment that was made in the Senate. And with all due respect to the Senate, the amendment was training all teachers. They changed it to teachers and staff. I believe it was teachers and staff, literacy staff, or instructional staff. But I still think it needs to go back and add administrators. And even though you might see administrators as instructional staff, I'm not sure everybody's going to see it that way. So I would like to have you possibly consider going back in and adding administrators, because if you don't have administrators trained and knowing what they're doing, I can guarantee you some of the systems will fail. I worked at a school that had a system like this in place, changed administrators. They didn't like it, and that's why it has to be in statute that everybody has to be trained and administrators. So because otherwise the system, the new principal came in and our whole system we had in place failed. So please keep the children in mind with your amendments. It's not about the adults.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. I'll kind of pose the same a little bit question that I did to some representing of the school districts is, so if we want to push this bill forward, and so we didn't make any adjustments to what the Senate did, and I know why that's important to you, but to get it moved forward, would you be willing to accept that and look at that later? Like, I think there's things about this bill in my mind that are there is an ability to come back next year and pick up some things, see what happened, but yet we push that focus out and we start working with what we have. What would you say to that?
Chairman Andrew, Representative Lawley, yes, definitely would support that to get this bill moving. And I do think that that would be something we could look at down the road. And so definitely would support just not adding that now, for sure.
All right.
Thank you.
Unless there's any really pressing questions, we better work the bill committee. All right. Thank you. Committee, what is your pleasure? Moved by Representative Guggenmoss, seconded by Representative Strzok. Is there any discussion? Representative Erickson.
Mr. Chairman, I feel strong about this K through 6 is really the thing that we need to be doing and focusing on. So I'm trying to gauge my support for this K through 6, but I'm not comfortable moving it to K through 12. I'm not, and we'll probably, if we don't agree to amend to K through 6, I'll move to table.
Is there any
Just wanted to.
discussion on? Are you making a conceptual amendment, Representative Erickson?
You bet, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded.
And
Yeah,
that's here.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the good representative. Would you also consider K-8? I've been in contact with the superintendent, one of my districts, and I'll actually tell you, he said that they use, let me see, K-8 would be better than K-6. I think their letter's certified, but they said that they use it in the middle school and it works. So he suggested K-8 would be even better than K-6. What were your thoughts be on that as a friendly?
Mr. Chair, you bet. I have walked through a couple of literacy situations in my 30-year career, and while I was in social studies and appreciated it very much, I'm not saying that shop teachers or math teachers didn't appreciate it. It's just that it was so wide open that we didn't think that that was very effective. And so, yes, I would consider that. You bet. If we can do these things, and I very much appreciate this, and I've been listening to this, this particular proponent of this for quite some time, and felt like I've done my homework to see the benefits of it, K through 8. I just have a lot of concerns about the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
Representative Strzok.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry, I need to take care of one thing.
Oh.
Is that a friendly to the amendment to the second as well?
I consider that friendly. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So that's established. Representative Strzok, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I guess I'm not understanding if it's good through K through 8th, why it's not good through K through 12th. I guess I'm just not understanding why we can't just go ahead and keep it going and get these kids some help, the ones that are about ready to graduate. If it's helpful up to then, I'm not understanding why it's not helpful all the way up.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that comes pretty simple. There is just so much difference in teaching K through 8, in my opinion, and 9th through 12th. And you have to focus and specialize so much in 9 through 12 that it's a whole different ball of wax, in my opinion, and through my experience, very much. And I know that there's a considerable amount of evidence how this is working, K-8, especially K-6, and I am too very concerned of that drop off after 4th grade, and we've got to do something there. But I don't think that can't be worked around and worked into the bill if we keep it a little more narrow focused of K-8.
Further discussion on the amendment? Question on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
No.
All those in favor?
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's that amendment, sorry.
All those in favor of the amendment? I was confused. Okay, 4 in favor, all those opposed? Did. Further discussion? Question.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Williams.
So I thank everybody for being here, all our experts, and I understand the urgency. But the more we talk about this issue, I don't believe that this has really been that clarifying for me. Today, there's a lot of big question marks, especially from my districts. And so I believe it would be in order, and I can share this in Mason's manual to motion to lay this bill on the table at this time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
Chairman.
you can do that if we have a second, I believe. Seconded, non-debatable. All right, please call the roll.
This is a roll call to table Senate File 59, Representative Braden. Vote to table, Representative Bratton.
Aye.
Representative Erickson.
Aye.
Representative Guggenmoss.
No.
Representative Kelly.
Excused.
Representative Lawley.
No.
Representative Singh.
Aye.
Representative Strock.
No.
Representative Williams.
Aye.
Chairman Andrew.
No.
Mr. Chairman, that is 4 ayes to table and 4 noes to table. 4 and 4.
Motion does not pass. Further discussion on the bill. Representative Strock.
And just a comment, we have worked on this. We've spent hours on this. The Senate went through it. They spent hours on it, I assume. I'm just not understanding why we are not wanting to keep seeing it move forward. Yes, maybe there's a couple things that need worked on and can be discussed. We have a little time for that, but I'm just really think we should go ahead and get these children some help and get some reading. And I think there's been things that have been put in the past have been put into our schools that we forgot how to teach reading. My kids didn't, a lot of them didn't learn phonics. They didn't even, that's where we've gone wrong. And I think this is to correct what happened years ago when they took some of this out of our schools.
Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too just will note that we have spent a great deal of time during the interim. There was plenty of opportunity for people to come forward and talk about some different concerns, and we weren't really hearing much of that. And so it really puts us, the committee that was there and took in the information, at a little bit of disadvantage because there's information and there's when it's received. So I mean, I would urge really all the parties, if there's a possibility of some amendments that somehow work a little bit for everybody, we're going to the floor with this. And so I believe, so I just, I would say we all have to decide how much we want to get to where we want to go. And so, but we have worked. And so I realize that some districts are just now taking a look at it and there's some differences of viewpoints. Sometimes it's understanding the bill correctly. Sometimes it's genuine differences of opinion and we can have that. But, we did study this. It's a priority. Sorry, I missed the earlier, but I think the department has spoke pretty clearly about the need. And for me, the thought of waiting while kids are basically their time in the public system is moving on. And we know, I mean, it's really without question that we have kids in 9th through 12th that cannot read, and that should not be. So this may be a work in progress, but I do feel that we have to do something, and to do nothing says something that I don't want to say. So I'm an aye.
Further discussion. Representative Erickson.
Yeah, and I'll speak on that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. The question seems to come up, where are we hearing this from? This is coming very strong. If you've looked at your email and if you've taken phone calls, and I'm not saying you're not, but I've actually talked to some individuals in some of our districts among this committee that have felt like they haven't been heard. And so, that's where I'm kind of standing a little stronger because, man, I'll tell you, the last 2 days have been receiving a ton of that information. And so I would defend that a little bit on the question as to where's this coming from? It's coming from our districts. My opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none in question having been called, please call the roll.
This is a roll call vote on Senate File 59. Representative Bratton,
No.
Representative Erickson,
No.
Representative Guggenmoss,
Aye.
Representative Kelly is excused. Representative Lawley,
Aye.
Representative Singh.
Aye.
Representative Strock.
Aye.
Representative Williams.
No.
Chairman Andrew.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 5 ayes, 3 noes, 1 excused.
Districts, they're doing a good job.
Senate File 59 has passed the committee. We are adjourned.
Chairman Andrew, are we adjourned?